Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of A Cup of Joe. My name is Joe Escobedo, and with me on today's shows is Chris Dawson, who does business development at Nimbus Design here in Singapore. So thank you so much for being on the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
So I know we've been connected for a while. Like I said, I've been following you, and one of the things I'd really love to get your thoughts on for today's episode is better understanding, sales and business development during this time. And I know you have, certain approaches you've taken in the past, cold calling and things like that. I'd love to get your thoughts in terms of, what's working for you. What are some of the challenges that you faced during this time, and maybe how you overcame some of them.
Sure. Well, it's interesting you bring up cold calling and cold emailing. I used to live by that a long time ago in a previous life. And what I found is that it didn't work as well as I had hoped or expected. Now, fast forward to with COVID-19 and a lot of people just slowing down a lot of their business processes, cold calling and cold emailing isn't working at all for me. So what I have found before is take a little bit of time and do a little bit of research on what this company is doing or what the industry is doing. So instead of doing a cold call or a cold email, with a little bit of research, I could find out, okay, if you're in the hospitality industry, these are like the top 3 things that's going on in the industry. Chances are, if I reach out to a company in that industry, these are going to be their challenges. So when I reach out to them, I can go ahead and start showing that I have done my homework and did a little bit of research and warmed them up with an email. And before that, to make sure I'm talking to the right person, you can use LinkedIn as a research tool. I use LinkedIn to do my cold outreach. If they're willing to connect with me and give me their email address, permission-based marketing, then I can reach out to them and it'll be warm. It'll be a warm contact. And I find that just taking that time and that approach of doing a little bit of homework, don't using a shotgun marketing approach, but finding out just a little bit to get that conversation going is a much better approach than just cold calls or cold emails. I think if you were going to use a cold email or cold call approach, then chances are you're going to come across as a commodity. And a lot of people just don't have time, especially now, to just sit there and discuss what it is you do and how much is it and can I get a discount?
Yeah.
I find that if you can go ahead and start providing value in advance to show this is what I do, I'm an expert, I'm an authority, then when it's time for them to buy, then chances are you'll be top of mind because you didn't do a hard sell and you didn't already upset them and damage your own brand in the process.
No, it's a very good point. And I'd love to get your thoughts on terms of how do you do research? You mentioned the LinkedIn in terms of identifying people, but you also mentioned doing research for the company as well. What are some of the ways in which you gather research?
What I do now is when I decide I'm going to target an industry, I will find out what are like the top 10 or top 20 companies in that regionally as well as locally. And then from there, I can start whittling down a list of companies through LinkedIn. And then I look at those details and match it against my ideal profile. For example, for Nimbus Design, while we can do quite a few things, we're not an agency on the level of, say, Ogilvy. So I'm not going to go after giant MNCs.
Yeah.
If I go after giant MNCs, what they need is not what I can offer. So I look for clients that fit my profile and just start from there. So if hospitality again, I'm not going to talk to a front desk person. Chances are I'm going to talk to a director of marketing or a general manager of operations and start the process there. Reach out to those folks, warm them up, and just do that. So the research it starts there. I make sure that they work on my ideal profile of the client that I'm going after. Again, so if I go after a marketing manager, it's going to be different than the VP of sales.
Yes.
Because those two folks, they have different goals and objectives of what their positions and what their roles do in the organization. So when I talk to the marketing or I talk to the VP of sales, I need to make sure that I address those concerns or at least let them give an idea that, yes, I know what I'm talking about and I can at least have a solution, even if they've already have it, that I've presented it and okay, Chris has an idea of what he's going on, but maybe we can talk about something else that he offers.
Yes.
So the research is key, as well as finding clients or prospects that are your ideal profile. Because you don't want to go after somebody that's either too big or too small.
Yes, absolutely. Apologies. Give me 1 second. All right, Chris, that's a really good point. Like I said, in terms of understanding the ICP, your ideal prospect and things like that. I guess, the question is how much do you personalize or how much in depth do you go in terms of that initial message? Because I think that is where a lot of people struggle. You can go very high level and talk about here are the three biggest trends impacting the hospitality, versus like here are ones that we've seen for example Hilton and Marriott kind of struggle with. So I'm not sure how in depth we need to go when we're showcasing our knowledge about the particular industry or ICP.
It's in my experience, I've gone down to 100% personalization. Every single email that I send out, while there's a format, I do personalize it to that person, to that company, to that industry, and then I showcase at least 2 examples of how we've helped companies similar to them in that industry. So I believe personalization plays a huge part, especially now, in meeting your sales numbers. Again, if you just say, oh, this is Chris Dawson of Nimbus Design, and we help clients with their graphic design, it's not really going to speak much to you. But if you then personalize that, hey, we help companies similar to the branding industry like Joe to create targeted content for directors of marketing and automation. And then here are 2 clients that we've helped that are similar to Joe. Then as a reader, you're going to start saying, okay, I know these guys, I know that problem. This is directly related to me and my industry. And if I can get them to engage with me on that, then awesome sauce, right? However, the idea is they might not be in a position to buy from me now because even though I can do a lot of homework and a lot of research, without picking up the phone and without sending out that first email, without making that first touch, I'm not going to know where are they in the buying cycle. Do they have a problem they need to solve now? Are they ready to buy? Are they doing the research? But if you have a personalized email that targets their industry and their problems, and this is some of the things that you've done to help other clients similar to them, it gets them thinking, okay, I don't have a problem with branding, but I am launching a new product. So perhaps they could help with the branding and the branding creation of this product launch.
Got it.
So that's where I think personalization comes in, because instead of taking like the 10,000 foot approach, you go straight down into you give very, very concrete examples to get them thinking about themselves in that idea.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like you're able to discover where they are in the buying cycle from speaking with them afterwards, because it's difficult to tell, just by doing your research online. You won't be able to tell if they're launching a new product or coming out with a new brand, correct?
Yes. So now you're getting into follow-up, which is key. So you've made your outreach either on LinkedIn or you send an email to the website and they've actually replied, right? So that's your first step. So now they know you and you know them. You kind of warm them up, and then you ask them for their email address. And I'm giving away, and this is no secret. This whole cycle is just well documented in all the books that you could ever read. So you got that first touch, you get their email address, they've given it to you, and that's permission-based marketing. So now they're expecting something from you. And that's the interesting thing. When they give you the email address, they do indeed expect something from you. But the worst thing you can do is just send out an email that says all about me, and this is how much I cost. It's not about them. It's not about how you can help them. So that's where the personalization comes in. Once you have that, this is where a lot of businesses fail. They don't follow up because they say, hey, man, I sent out the email and Joe didn't reply. Apparently, Joe's not ready to buy from me, or Joe's not in the buying cycle, or maybe my email really upset Joe. It could be Joe's just super busy and he got your email and he's like, you know what? I'm going to defer. I'm going to come back to Chris later. And it never happens because, especially right now, so many people have so many things going on that it's just a week goes by, So that's where follow-up is key. So I'm going to follow up with Joe a week later and just, hey, man, did you get my email? Do you have any thoughts or questions? Is there something we can talk about? And normally, if you're just straight up and honest and you feel genuine and you're not just checking in, you can get that conversation going. And from there, you can find out where are they? Do they have an issue that you can solve? Do they have a product they're about to launch? Do they have a new service? Especially now, what's happening is a lot of companies saying, hey, Chris, I got your email. I really like what you're doing, but we have cut back or just completely stopped all of our marketing efforts. So we have zero budget. Some of the projects that we were working on early in the year, and I'm sure some of your listeners can feel this, is I had 3 film jobs lined up in January and February. And then started hearing these little things about, oh, the virus is coming, what's going on? Maybe we should see what's happening. And then by March, boom, everything stopped. So what do you do? What do you do when everybody stops spending money on marketing or they cancel their project that they had with you?
Yeah. No, I've encountered the same thing as well. A lot of budgets got cut, because they're trying to save or on costs and things like that, which makes perfect sense. So it sounds like follow-up is extremely important, which you definitely mentioned. What are some of the ways in which you track? I mean, I know some people have sophisticated things like HubSpot. Some people are tracking it in like a Google sheet or an Excel sheet. How are you tracking kind of the follow-up, like particularly on LinkedIn?
So I believe in HubSpot. It took me a while to finally figure out how to use it, but so a lot of my tools are, I use LinkedIn to pre-qualify the prospects based on a profile that I have. And for everyone that agrees to connect and then sends me their email address, since they've given me their permission to email them, I dump them into HubSpot for nurturing, not lack of a better word. And then I put them on a sales cadence. So while it might take 5, 6, 10 touches before someone converts, without a sales cadence, you don't know where each prospect is in that, because today you connected with me, but then tomorrow I have 3 people that connected with me. Both of you are you're in a different area on the sales cadence. So using HubSpot and then using a lot of the fields that you can customize it, you can track that as well. And once the sales cadence runs its course, I will know at the end of it where you are usually. Are you interested? You're not interested? Wrong timing, or I sent you a proposal. So with systems and tools and follow-up, I found that has helped keep us going through the challenging times, for lack of a better term. So my tools are LinkedIn, HubSpot, and then some various automation tools to connect the two.
No, I think that's a good point. And I think one of the consulting with a client right now who's focusing on improving their lead nurturing process. In terms of your sales cadence, I guess there's 2 different kinds. There's the kind that's usually like right after you message them. It's like a 3 to 5 step or whatever it is, email sequence over a shorter period of time. It could be a 1 month. But what about the longer term nurturing? Like you said, it could take 5, 6 touches. What are you doing beyond kind of that initial kind of follow-ups via HubSpot?
When I first developed my sales cadence, I developed 3 sales cadences because I wasn't too sure what was going to work and for which product. I chose one sales cadence to start with, and because our starting point is around $7,000, it's rare that I close on the first couple of touches, because normally it's around 7,000 or higher. There has to be a need for what it is that we do, for the solutions that we offer, and that requires multiple people involved. So that sales cadence is indeed longer. I think that's a 45-day sales cadence, and I think there's about 10 to 12 touches. And yes, but with each touch, there's no hard selling. There's always a little bit of value that I provide in each touch point. And while there is a call to action, it's not buy now. And there's no based on scarcity. Hey, if you buy in the next 2 minutes, I can give you a 20% discount. There's none of that, because a lot of the time, the companies we work with, that just doesn't work.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. If you have a higher ticket item, then they're not going to buy it just like that. It makes sense. Yeah. I'd love to get your thoughts in terms of what kind of content, particularly in the nurturing, as well as kind of the call to actions, have worked best for you in terms of like moving them from a lead to at least a meeting or a proposal.
Sure. So what kind of content do I provide? So it is based on the sales cadence. If the first sales cadence, I'm talking about creating targeted content for a company's audiences so that they can generate more leads and ultimately more revenue, then all the little bits of value that I provide is going to be like content creation. So if you decide that you're in fintech, one of the great things that people can do, because that's a very fast moving industry, is, sorry, put that on mute, is what are the different contents that you can create, what platforms you can push them out on, how do you market those different pieces of content, and how you can syndicate them, and how you can do this all in-house. So all the value that I give is like for them to do it themselves, because a lot of people don't have any marketing budget. So if they can do it themselves, then they can save that money, but still create content, create marketing assets.
Mm.
So depending upon the different product that I'm offering, that will dictate the kind of value that I offer to my clients or my prospects during the nurturing process. And I say clients because even after you make the sale, you have your after sales.
Yeah.
The goal is not the first sale. That's where the process starts. Once you make your first sale and you can make that client happy, now the game on. Not up to that point, once they get there. So you even have sales cadences for the after sales portion. I think you mentioned earlier about upselling and cross-selling.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so depending on the sales cadence and the product. Because if I come to you at one point and go, oh, this is how you can do a DIY video that's basic camera, maybe with a couple of graphics over here, and then you can put it out on YouTube and blast that out on LinkedIn. And then next week I come by and talk about, oh, this is how you can do a Facebook ad. There's somewhat disconnect because I've already started the conversation about targeted content.
Now that makes sense in terms of keeping it to a specific solution and then providing, in your case, I guess, how to best practices for that particular solution. It all kind of leads together. I think another thing a lot of people struggle with is the call to actions, and I know this is one of the key portions that a lot of people are scratching their head trying to figure out what's the right call to action in the sequence, because it's tough. So once again, love to pass the ball back to you and get your thoughts.
Man, I have copied and pasted so many call to actions from blogs and books and podcasts over the 10 years. And I've honestly, what works for me is the last thing is it's just, hey man, are you free for a phone call? It's real quick and this is what we're going to talk about. So I found that works because I've done all these other ones where, hey, I'm available next Thursday, next Friday, and next Saturday at these times. Choose one. And like, I've never had anyone reply to that because I'm now forcing their hand to choose 3 times that's convenient to me. And it's not about the client, it's about me. And that's not what I'm there for. So my call to action is like, if you're interested, you want to keep this conversation going, are you free for a quick 10-minute phone call? And I find that those get a better response. And at this point, remember, I'm already sending them emails because they gave me their email address. It wasn't like I scraped it off some website and it's like, man, how come this Joe guy keeps contacting me? No, I don't want to talk to him. If I wanted to talk to him, I'd pick up the phone. But if you give me your email address, you're expecting me to contact you. And at some point, as a sales guy, that I'm going to ask you for a phone call, especially now. And yeah, I find that people are a lot more receptive in that sense. But again, it goes back to permission-based marketing and did they give you the email address or did you find it off their website?
Yeah, no, that's
call to action that works for me is, are you free for a quick 10-minute phone call?
Okay. I guess one thing that we didn't cover, maybe we can loop back to that a little bit, is how do you actually ask for the email? I know it's part of maybe your outreach message. Oh, yeah. It's not the first thing you probably ask for.
No, actually it's not. So when it goes back to asking people to connect, when I find that when you connect with people on LinkedIn or through the website, you personalize the message. Personalization starts from the very first outreach, from the very first contact. They don't know me. They don't know my business. They don't know what I'm doing. But all they know is like, dude, I got another LinkedIn request connection. Let's see what this guy wants. And then if it's personalized, then you say, oh, okay. I found some of my clients have said your message was personalized and it felt like you took the time, even if it's an extra 2 minutes, to do something different. You just didn't leave the standard in there. And even LinkedIn tells you, do not leave this in there. This is just a placeholder. But so many folks just connect. And they're using a shotgun approach. So I personalize every single one of my request connect from the very beginning.
So not only the after message, the actual connection with your requesting connection, you send a personalized message to them first. And then I guess once they accept, then you would probably dive a bit deeper into that personalization.
No, as a matter of fact, my second message is, hey man, thanks for connecting. You never know when the amazing magic's going to happen. No, I'm not asking for an email. I'm not asking you to buy from me. I'm not asking you to visit my website. I'm just thanking you for accepting my invitation. Normally, so on my sales cadence, I would wait a week, and then I would then ask them, hey, thanks for connecting with me again. If you're interested, I would like to know more about what you do. You can send me an email here, or, and I'm A/B testing these two,
Yeah.
or I say, hey, thanks for accepting my invitation. I'd like to send you my intro email if curious, or if you'd like to know more about what we do. Because even though my targeted outreach talks about creating content, so when I ask for their email, I make sure that the first email that I send out. So I ask for the email on the third touch.
Got it. Okay. And yeah, once again, I'd be curious. I know you're A/B testing. It'd be good to hear which one works better for you. Like, let me know more about what you do, or let me share more about what I do. I know you're A/B testing that. I'm not sure which reaction you've gotten better from.
Now that's very interesting. So I found that when I reach out to folks and they connect with me, I find that I get a higher response rate with their email address if I just ask them point blank. Thanks again for connecting with me. I'd like to send you my intro email if you'd like to learn more about what we do. Thank you. And they either will or they won't. When I ask them to tell me more about themselves, if I reach out to them and I use that message, I get way less response. However, this is really interesting. If they reach out to me and I accept, that's the message that I use. And I find that since they've reached out to me, chances are they're willing to talk about what they do. So when I ask them for their email address or samples of how they've helped clients, they send me an email.
That's quite interesting. And I'm trying to make a parallel between like a networking party. I always hate when people ask me, okay, tell me more about yourself. I'm always like, so it's interesting to hear that, you point blank say, if you can share whatever, if you share your email, then I'm happy to share more about what we do, an introduction and things like that. You said that actually has a higher response rate if you're reaching out to someone versus you asking them, hey, tell me more. We'd love to find out more about what you do. Because I think it goes back to what you were saying is ideally you have already done the research to find out a little bit about what they do. I think it goes back to the personalization. So I guess the next step is for you to reciprocate that kind of information and say, okay, I found out a little bit more about you. Would you like to find out more about what we do as well? So it kind of balances the scales, if that makes sense.
It does. And with personalization, it feels more real. It feels like we're really trying to make this connection work. I don't go straight into selling because honestly, Joe, I don't know what you want yet. I don't know what you need. I can't sell you a solution if I don't know what your problem is. So yeah. I have to have that connection. And I find, as a matter of fact, if you want to talk about numbers, I would say 2/3 to 3/4 of my connections, they don't have a need for me, but they're happy to connect. They're happy. And this is what's really interesting. Taking this approach, they will give me their email address, even though they will qualify and say, hey, Chris, I don't need you right now. I have no need for what you do. I would love for you to send me an intro email so I have a better idea of what you do in case I need it. And you're like, yeah, man, for sure. So even just being straight up and just being honest.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is if those folks don't need me, they go on a different nurturing. I am not going to start hammering them on my sales cadence.
Yeah.
Because they've already told me I don't have anything. So I have another cadence just for those folks who don't need me yet.
Got it.
That's the key word, yet. And a lot of folks don't need what we do during COVID, during the circuit breaker or phase 2. I think a lot of people are just sitting on their marketing budget trying to see what's going on.
So it sounds like those who identified that they need you right now, maybe the messaging or the content is slightly more, I don't want to say aggressive, but more kind of focused on a particular solution versus maybe the longer one is maybe less of a sell and more educational, or am I way off in that?
Way off. Because remember, when you reach out to these folks, man, you don't know where they are in the buying cycle. Of course, the golden goose is I send you a connect request. I ask for your email address. I send you my intro email, and then boom, you pick up the phone and like, Chris, you know what? I'm launching a product in a month from now, and we have no branding. Let's have a Zoom call with my team. You get your people, I get my people, and then we go from there. Those are the ones where, after that happens, you're just, yeah. Right? But there's no more aggressive that because they were looking. So there is no call to action.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea when I send them my intro email that they're actually at the research phase for who they need to use or who they're going to shortlist. And so it goes back to the question we had earlier, how do you make your numbers? That's how. Finding those people that are ready to buy. But I mean, that's every salesperson's dream, right? Is you make that, oh, I'm gonna send one more email, man. I'm gonna make one more request connection, and then they go, you know what, man? I'm at a position where I can buy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that the key is to remember, like you said, not everyone is ready to buy. And I think identifying that earlier and putting them in a different nurture track in your case can help send the right messaging when you know that either the intent and they're ready to do it right now versus 3 to 6 months or a year down the road. I think having that in mind is important.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to processes as well as tools. If you're just going to do shotgun marketing or shotgun sales, your close rate should be pretty low, especially if you're doing, I guess what you just said earlier was a high ticket item.
Yeah.
If you're doing a low ticket item, I think sure that might work because it's something they could buy on impulse. No one's going to buy a new branding with logo and a video for $7,000. You know what? It's Tuesday. I think I will.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I
if
think
I can find that person, golden.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's once again the holy grail. Another thing I really would love to get your thoughts on is we talked about earlier in terms of upselling, cross-selling, and growing your existing accounts, particularly during COVID when a lot of it's difficult to get newer clients on. Maybe they're more reluctant. They're not looking. So, and I know Q4 is coming up as well. So, what are some of the ways that salespeople can maybe generate some additional opportunities or revenue from their existing customers?
Well, again, that goes back to follow-up and then after sales nurturing. If I do an animated video for you because you have a new product launch, and the video that we do for you is an explainer video, then the next thing, obviously, logically is, so Joe, now that we've made this really cool animated video for you that explains in great detail what the features and the benefits are, how are you going to let people know? Because a lot of the dangerous things that happen is that a business will buy a video and they'll just put it on YouTube and be like, we're waiting for the money to come in.
Yeah.
And you're like, you didn't tell anybody. So you have to help them market it because they think that the solution to their problem is a video when that's just a tool or it's just a tool for a much bigger plan. So then if you take a look at what they bought from you, in this case, the video, you have social marketing, social media marketing. How are you going to let people know this is coming? This really cool thing is out there. And then instead of waiting for them to come back and be like, we don't know, can you tell us? What we do is we just say, you've got this video, this is what we think you should do, here's a plan, and here's an example of what it looks like and how much it's going to cost. And then you get that conversation going. They may already have someone to do that, but that's one way you can do that, is just find out what you've already sold to them and what would be the next step in their sales and marketing cycle. And do you offer that? Now, if you don't offer that, that's where it's really interesting. You can find partners. So if they're going to market this in, say, the Middle East, I'm not going to do social media marketing in the Middle East, but I will have partners. I have a couple of partners in the Middle East now that I could then tap on. Because if they want to go there, then I can put those two together and help them out. And yeah, just find out what it is that they've already bought from you, and just what's a complementary product or service. Now, it could be for the video, instead of going for the marketing, say, okay, well, maybe there should be a blog article that follows suit. Can we take the content of the video and create a blog article? And then put it on the website, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Medium, maybe syndicate it to a bunch of websites that serve the same, either target audience or the same industry or same interest.
That's a really good point. I'd love to it deviates slightly from what we're talking about, but I think it goes back to pricing and positioning when you're doing the actual presentation. There's, I guess, a couple different approaches. One of which is to lay it all on the table and put, your rate card and all your different products and services at the very beginning. Or in the other cases where you kind of just say, okay, we'll do a video first. If that goes well, then we'll follow up, like you said, and we'll do social media marketing to promote it, or we'll do a blog off the back of that. Which one have you found has a higher success rate in terms of longer term revenue, if that makes sense.
I don't think I follow you too much, Joe. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. So what I was saying is like, there's a couple different ways to sell it. So you can, for example, if
Mm.
you are selling, a video plus blogs plus social media marketing, is that something you mentioned at the very beginning when you're selling that first video? Or is it after they're happy with that video, then you come back and you say, oh, actually, we actually do social media marketing, we do blogs. Is this something that'd be helpful?
Okay, so I want to try. So when I'm doing this video, do I also talk about the other services that we offer
Yes.
at that time? That's a really good question. It depends upon the project. It depends upon the client as well. You have to have like awareness of what's going on, and you just can't come out and say, "Hey, by the way, we can do this." That sometimes that could come across as hard sell, and the client's like, "Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna do the video on bounce. I'm gonna go someone else because that guy's hard sell." Or it could be if you just have a regular just conversation, like you have to know your client and how to have that conversation. So it really depends upon per client. And I guess in my experience, it's also how do they come to you? If they only know me as a video, say like in one of my cases, I'm selling just animated video that's for an explainer. Their first interaction with me is going to be, oh, Nimbus Design is a video company. They're not going to know that we do marketing strategy and the rest of it. So what would happen is towards the end of the project, when you're doing your last final edits, you're maybe doing that final version. You want to get the colors right at the very end. You have a call to action. Then that's normally when I would start the process of, so where are you going to put this video? Because that's the question. Because now that I give this video to you, where does it go? And if they say, oh, maybe YouTube, then you can start explaining, well, the benefits of maybe putting that video elsewhere, or maybe linking to that video to your website, and just get them thinking about, okay, now that you've made the video, how do you let people know about it? You get them thinking about that. Again, it's all about education and teaching them. And if they're like, you know what, I really don't care, I'm just going to put it on the website because I got into the project, you're like, okay, cool. You can maybe nurture them and come back like a week later and let them know these are some of the video projects that you've done. This is some of the marketing that happened around them, and this is how they got their ROI much faster than just publish it and forget it. But if they do come back and say, you know what, I haven't really thought about where I'm going to put that. What are your thoughts? Do you know someone who can do that? That's when you can start explaining how the rest of the value that you can bring to the project.
So I guess, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I guess it's about being proactive and understanding what are the complementary products. So if, for example, if you're selling videos, what are some of the things you can sell off the back of that? And having more of an organic, natural conversation where you're saying, we did the video, how can we best promote it on different channels? How can we get, the most reach or most leads out of it? Okay, that makes sense, because in that case, you're not overwhelming them. It's more of we did this, now how about this, if it makes sense for what you're doing.
Right, because you imagine if they're doing a project with you, you're just one small part of a much bigger project. So their headspace is like, okay, where does this fit in the grand scheme of things? What's next? Maybe they're thinking about the meeting they have to go to after they finish shooting for the day. They got to go to this other thing. So yeah, you're right. You don't want to overwhelm them, but you do want to give them, just drop little seeds of thoughts, something for them to think about. So when they're chilling at home at night and they have a time to clear their head, they can go, oh yeah, I should probably figure out where to put this video.
Yeah.
Now that I have it, where does it go? Yeah. And I never expect an answer from my client immediately. As a matter of fact, given how fast business moves, it might take them a week. But if you can just, again, nurture them, come across as being helpful and adding value and not sell.
Yeah.
I found, and which is really, really weird, because I talk to a lot of people and they love sell. But then they complain that, dude, man, it's crazy, I can't sell anything. And you're like, yeah, you're kind of like hammering away at them. You shouldn't hammer away at them. I need it. And you're like, no, you don't, man.
It is. I think it goes back to, and this is a whole different topic we want to dive into now, but I think in managing your mindset, because as a salesperson, because a lot of times you have numbers to hit. If you're an entrepreneur or a founder, you have numbers to hit. You have mouths to feed. So there's always that pressure in the back of your mind. And I think that's why a lot of salespeople really struggle and go to the dark side, which I call it, and hard sell and do things that are a bit shady. But it's for me, I try to think from a longer term perspective, which is why I don't really do any hard selling whatsoever. In fact, I train people on how not to do that. So I think, yeah, what you said has made a lot of sense. Chris, like I said, yeah.
I was going to say, to not go to the dark side, do your follow-up, have a system in place, follow your processes, and trust it. Not everyone's going to buy today. And some of the folks that I train, I tell them, they're not going to buy from you today. But if you have this system in place and you have this process in place, there should be no reason why when your manager goes into the CRM and randomly pulls up one of your prospects and says, hey, Joe, tell me about Susan over at STB. You're like, oh, yeah, Susan. She's 2 months out. She's not the decision maker, but they have a new product coming up. So I'm following up with her. So with all that systems in place, you'll know where everything is. But you always have to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And follow up. And prospect. Oh, so many people, they don't want to prospect. They hate prospecting. But if you don't prospect, you can't sell. If you can't sell, you can't feed your family.
There you go. I think, yep, you're spot on. Chris, like I said, thank you so much for sharing your insights. How can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more about you and what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and it's quite open. So you don't even have to connect with me to send me a message. Number one. Number two, you can send me an email from my website. And I think that's it. Email, LinkedIn, and website.
Awesome.
I'm quite easy to get a hold of, actually.
Wonderful. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your kind of experiences and sales insights for this time. I'm sure it's very helpful for folks like me and everyone who's listening to this episode. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No. It was great. And so if you're watching this episode and you found it helpful, please do feel free to share it with any of your colleagues, your peers, anyone who might find value out of it. Otherwise, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.